So we are getting closer to knowing where the city's brand new homeless shelter is actually going to be built. It's going to be called the Gateway Center, and it's going to cost millions of dollars in bond money.
Yeah, there's been some controversy over its possible location. City and county leaders learned about the possibilities today, now that they've been narrowed down. Our Joy Wang just returned from a big meeting between the two tonight and joins us live from our newsroom. Joy.
Well, Steve, Tessa, before we get into the three locations they're considering, let's explain the criteria that helped narrow it down. The cost. They have $14 million to work with. That includes the land they're going to buy and keeping it open 24/7. So after considering all of that, talking to the community, including the homeless, they ended up with this. Before narrowing it down to three potential locations, there were 149 identified by the city from town halls, online surveys, and community input. First, Coronado Park and the abutting lots near 3rd Street and I-40. Next, the former Loveless Hospital at Gibson and San Mateo. And finally, the UNM-owned vacant lot south of the state laboratory. The city says all of them have some sort of community support. All these locations recommended multiple times.
We envision a center where we're providing on-site case management services for every resident who wants it, who wants access to those services, and developing an individualized service plan, as well as many of our community partners coming in to offer their services on-site to help folks get connected.
These places needed to be at least 5 acres, have access to transportation, and be something the city can develop with their budget.
We have an opportunity to design something from scratch that's trauma-informed, that provides a safe and dignified setting. We can do that.
So, Joy, the city says this will be a low-barrier shelter.
Right. There are a number of reasons why some people might not want to go to the shelter even though they need help. They might have pets, a lot of items they need for storage, or they're not clean or sober. And so the city says even though there will be rules, those people will have a place to keep their pets, a place to keep their items, and even if they're not clean or sober, they hope they'll still access help at that shelter.
And the plan is to hopefully have something nailed down, like a final decision by spring?
That is the plan, and that's also when they're going to be talking to people within the community to try and mitigate any of the concerns they have by building this homeless shelter in their area. In fact, if you think about it, construction will begin the summer of 2021, hopefully open by that following spring, and it's not just about homelessness. Here's an example we heard from the meeting tonight.
Right now, we know in our community, whether you are an individual experiencing homelessness or your husband is having a mental health breakdown, where do you go? Right now, you can go to an emergency room. That's really your only choice.
So the Coalition to End Homelessness calculated what relying on those ERs would cost compared to having this Gateway Center.
So they looked at data for about 12 months, and here's the breakdown of those numbers. 17,000 calls for people down and out, like someone passed out on a park bench. 7,000 of those calls, they took them to the emergency room. Only 110 of those people actually had a life-threatening condition. So if you added up all the ER expenses, we're talking about $15 million over that year, at least $1 million more than building and running this Gateway Center.
All right, good to know. Thank you, Joy.